With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day and solve them with Globus. So what's Globus? So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. So how can you get started using Globus? Anyone can use Globus right now for free to transfer files between Globus-enabled systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day and solve them with Globus. So what's Globus? So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. More than 150,000.
Yo. Yo. What up, though? How we doing? How are we doing? Happy 100th episode about AI. And there's a special guest. If I can pull out. You want to sit in my lap, you gotta be on TV. This is Snuggles. Oh. She just wants to sit in my lap. She doesn't want to be on TV. Go ahead, settle. Okay. Mm, 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 mm. Mm-hmm. Mm, mm, mm. Oh, you may notice this thing right here. This is sponsorship. So, most sponsorships are like, video games that all the other, and then there's fairs. All the other streamers have got you to play the video game, and like video game streams don't, necessarily go with the theme, and I'm not gonna have you play Raid Shadow Legends or any of that. This seemed more in keeping with the theme. You sign up for it. You do, if you sign up for at least a month, and stay signed up for at least 20 days, because there's a 20-day 20-day money back guarantee if you sign up and then cancel before the 20 days, then I don't get my payout. But if you stay with it for at least the 20 days, then they give me funding, and that's cool, and it's a good payout, and it's a respectable product. On Wednesday, I will be demoing the product, so there's that. And in the meantime, exclamation point Babel in the chat. Depending on which package you sign up for, you can get a variety of different savings off their normal rate. So all in all, not bad. I will be practicing my Espanol because I have some level of comfort with it, and wouldn't mind getting back into practice with Spanish. So there's that. And that's it. We'll go ahead. We're going to start with the news. We'll get to some videos. Going to be wrapping right up around 8 o'clock. So let's get to it. There's a few news items today, not too many. From Axios, layoffs hit the once immune cyber industry. It's a terrible headline because it's cybersecurity, but you know. Anyways, hundreds of cybersecurity workers have received their pink slips in the last few months. Despite early expectations that the industry would be spared the tech sector's wave of layoffs. Driving the news, in the last month, at least 9 cybersecurity companies have announced layoffs, according to data from layoffs.fyi. IronNet, a cyber company founded by a group of former intelligence officials, said in a public 8K filing this week it would lay off most of its workers and substantially curtail its operations. Company joins a growing list that includes Malwarebytes, Fortinet, NCC Group, Rapid7, Dragos, HackerOne, and Bishop Fox in cutting staff this year. The big picture. As the threat landscape expands, demand for cybersecurity products and workers have never been higher. But that demand has also spurred competition among cybersecurity vendors who are now competing for a place in their clients' increasingly streamlined IT and security budget. What they're saying, it is entirely possible that in the cybersecurity space, these companies are facing longer lead times and longer sales cycles. Between the lines, cybersecurity companies aren't exempt from the anxiety and uncertainty inspired by the current economy. Vendors of all sizes are eager to find ways to cut costs to better prepare for a potential recession and any other unexpected changes the macroeconomy brings this year. Public information about recent cybersecurity industry layoffs suggests vendors are making sizable workforce cuts too. Some of the companies have cut between 10 and 20% of their workforce, resulting in hundreds of job losses. Rapid7 cut around 18% of its workforce, or roughly 470 jobs. SecureWorks cut 15% of its workforce last month as part of its second round of layoffs in 2023. However, some of the cuts have been focused on non-cybersecurity roles like sales and marketing teams. For example, Fortinet focused its most recent layoffs on the sales, business development, and channel partner teams. The intrigue. Security executives are starting to weigh in on more IT spending decisions, which can drag out sales cycles as executives juggle the additional opinions. What we're seeing is that the CISO, the cybersecurity teams, they're having a seat at the table when it comes to thinking about the IT infrastructure and the hardware and software that's in place to store and protect information. And then, according to CyberSeek, the U.S. has enough workers to fill only 69% of the available cybersecurity roles. So there's a shortage of people to do the job, and yet cuts are being made. And this article is kind of all over the place, right? Like the threat landscape expands, demand for products and workers has never been higher, but the clients are streamlining IT and security budgets, and some of the companies are doing substantial cuts. Now, they're in the sales and marketing roles. I mean, obviously, that's something that can be one, more easily replaced by a bunch of the AI solutions that are coming to the table. And, you know, you had the chance to extend longer relationships. I don't know, man. It just always feels like we are, in spite of all the concerns about security, security is not where people put their money or keep their money when it comes to business. U.S. government offers NVIDIA A100 nodes at half price. The NERSC offers to rent Perlmutter supercomputers GPU nodes. U.S. National Energy Research Scientific Computing Center is offering to rent NVIDIA A100 based compute GPU nodes of the Perlmutter supercomputer with a 50% discount until the end of September. The offer comes as demand for compute horsepower for AI training is scarce industry-wide. However, the proposal is available for NERSC users only and applies to the number of hours credited for the machine. Using your time now benefits the entire NERSC community and spreads demand more evenly throughout the year, so to encourage usage now, we are discounting all jobs run on the Perlmutter GPU nodes by 50% starting tomorrow. Amid the generative AI craze, great word, there are dozens of companies willing to rent NVIDIA compute GPU-based nodes to train their large language models. Still, commercial data centers are running at their maximum capacity, and NVIDIA's compute GPUs are sold out for quarters to come, according to media reports. The offering from NERSC is undoubtedly generous, and the scientific center could make some easy money if it were offering its capacity commercially. However, the problem is that they only offer it to existing NERSC users who use the supercomputer for scientific research. This does not sound like a problem. Since the users were on summer break, they were probably not running their workloads on the supercomputer and are not going to till the end of the year. At least some of the GPU nodes were idling for some time, which begs the question of why the organization does not backfill its idle capacity with commercial workloads. Because not everything needs to be designed to make money that way, my guy. Anton Schlov. From Forbes, the Gen AI Imperative. In Forrester's 40 years, and this is from Forrester. And what is Forrester? What is Forrester? Forrester is one of the most influential research and advisory firms in the world. In Forrester's 40 years, we rarely recommended that clients move immediately to build a new technology. We typically counsel cautious experimentation until the tech matures and the vendor landscape rationalizes. That's an interesting phrase. Rationalizes. We're breaking that rule with generative AI. We believe that you must move now. This isn't crypto, and it's not blockchain, and it's not the metaverse. Crypto was for speculators. Blockchain was for programmers. The metaverse was for gamers. Maybe. Given a broad enough definition. This is the biggest technology business change of my lifetime, and if you're in your 40s, it will be one of the 2 or 3 biggest of your lifetimes. This change will cause extinction for many, but opportunity and growth for many more. Position yourself not to be a victim, position yourself to win. Tech thunderstorms. Here's my simple definition. Generative AI enables human beings to converse in their own language with big piles of data and to create new content from that data. I have a life insurance policy, and every few years my broker sends me the policy to review. I dread that moment because I don't really understand insurance. I find it opaque and boring. But what if I could converse with my policy? This is like, for all the sales pitchiness of this particular article, this is a great point, right? Like, this is an example of how you could potentially use this type of thing in your day-to-day life, right? There's a couple, like, I don't know what ChatGPT's or Claude 2's knowledge of insurance is, and it's, will be a year, 2 years old. What up, Igloo? Thank you, appreciate it. But this, like, when you get a bill, when you get an insurance policy, when you get whatever, having the ability to, like, query AI and ask it questions, be able to get answers from these inanimate, objects, has a tremendous benefit. Like, if you don't understand something and something seems off, you're going to have to call the company and ask them about the weird thing, right? And asking them about the weird thing is inevitably going to lead you to a situation where you are, at the mercy of the vendor, right? Where if you had the ability to talk to a uninvolved third party, like, how much have I paid into the policy? $275,000. If I died today, how much would the beneficiaries get? $350,000. Yada yada yada. But, like, asking for, like, a competitive policy as opposed to going to an insurance policy company that is motivated to sell you insurance, having an uninvolved third party that could, ask you questions about your needs or things of that nature, and then give you direction as to what you might want to go with, that has value. Generative AI will replace much of the web. Instead of going to Bank of America's website and searching for balances, credit card transactions, and mortgage payments due, you'll be able to go to the bank's fat prompt box and start conversing. Behind the prompt will be your bank's content, a continually updated generative large language model that will answer your questions and dynamically build graphics and charts to help you understand what your money has been up to. The result will be faster service, on-the-fly customization, improved experience, and more informed and satisfied customers. Impact 2, the death of Google. Maybe. Like, I'm still certain that Google is going to transform, but let's see what they have to say. With the decline of the web, the bell is rung for Google. Why are we all on a treadmill of searching the web, being given a bunch of websites and then reading through those websites hoping to find the answer? Because every time you search and look at a website, Google gets paid. The company desperately wants us on this treadmill because 80% of its revenue derives from selling Google ads. Yeah, but generative AI will get us off in a particularly pleasant future, maybe. Impact 3, trust as a business weapon. This should be interesting. Will customers trust generative AI? Not if it's generating what Forrester calls coherent nonsense. If companies unleash unfiltered and inaccurate generative AI content on unsuspecting customers, they'll end up losing share, brand currency, and buyers. Which means that people are still in the picture. As companies operate generative AI, they'll have to continually monitor and perfect to ensure that it's imparting valuable information, not hallucinations. In that respect, this is an Iron Man moment, not a robot moment. It's an opportunity to put workers in suits of technology to enable them to serve customers better. As long as the customer knows that a human being is in that suit, trust will advance because people trust people. In the aggregate, probably. And that will happen as employees are relieved of doing repetitive work, like answering the same question over and over, freeing them up to devote higher quality time to their customers. I'm going to coin a new term here, human AI, which combines the quality and speed of digital with just the right sprinkling of human connection and intimacy. This is like in the current meta and with the continued existence of, if not capitalism, a sales merchant type culture, then yes. You know, this sounds better than, you know, what we might have now. But it also sounds like fewer workers needed to answer the same question over and over. So, but I like that this person created an entire Forbes article is another indication that AI is not a fad. And then there's this. Virtual influencer Nunuri lands record deal. Is she the future of music? Teenage influencer Nunuri has 400,000 followers on Instagram and has starred in fashion campaigns for Dior, Balenciaga, and Valentino. Now she's being given a recording contract by Warner Music and is releasing her first single. If you don't know who Nunuri is, you might wonder why I'd be writing about this. But what makes it a first for Warner is the fact that Nunuri, and I don't like this term, doesn't exist. She's a metaverse avatar, and her voice is created by artificial intelligence. You can take a look at the video here. Let's see what is about to happen.
Some on the road, there's no turning back when I get traction. It just happens. Once you get me started, I'm a runaway train. My heart is like an ocean, you is stopping my wave. Just a little push, that's enough to start a chain reaction. One by one, box and fall, like dominoes, dominoes. One by
Is this a cover? I feel like I've heard this before. I'm not AGI, but CGI.
Hey guys! The love you show for my first song and music video, Dominoes, is incredible and touches me so deeply. I cannot thank you more. Thank you so much. As many of you asked me how the song and the video got created, I want to give you some behind-the-scenes information. I am made by the artistic and professional eye of real humans. It starts from the moment where my creator is
I mean, she looks like a Bratz doll, right?
finding the right pose, and therefore he usually uses a motion capture suit, specific gloves, and a face tracking system to get my signature pose and face expression. And these data are captured and sent over to the character animation team. They are true experts in adapting the data from the suit to my structured Also, they have to add and fine-tune and correct everything by hand, and their specific eye to make it really fit to my body. And very often the team has even to start from the scratch if something is not working correctly. It is a very complex step to bring me to life for still and motion. Every time you see me, and also now you can hear me, humans are involved.
Watch them fall like dominoes, dominoes.
Okay. More specifically, the technology involved is generative AI. This is a class of AI algorithm. The song itself, on the other hand, was very much created by humans, although they don't appear to be credited. Warner is reported to have said that they will be paid royalties the same as any other songwriter. It also features German producer and DJ Ale Farben. According to the Telegraph, royalties will be split between Farben, Warner, and the creator. Nunuri is one of 35 virtual influencers to have been given verified blue check marks on their Instagram account. What's interesting to me is that virtual celebrities and influencers are being increasingly accepted, perhaps by younger generations in particular, as an everyday part of the digital landscape. I told you that your kids were going to watch AI-generated cartoons, and I don't know what else to tell you at this point. Right? Gen Z and Gen Alpha and whatever's after them. All right. And then finally from today, from the Today Show website, a boy saw 17 doctors over 3 years for chronic pain. ChatGPT found the right diagnosis. Now, this isn't necessarily indicative of anything. It's a one-off, but it is demonstrative of the capabilities of large language models. Alex experienced pain that stopped him from playing with other children, but doctors had no answers. Why? His frustrated mom asked ChatGPT for help. Looking every day, chewing things, took him to the dentist. Alex increasing pain. We saw so many doctors. We ended up in the ER at one point. I kept pushing. I really spent the night on the computer going through all the things. So when ChatGPT suggested a diagnosis of tethered cord syndrome, it made a lot of sense. When Alex began chewing on things, his parents wondered if his molars were coming in and causing pain. As it continued, they thought he had a cavity. A dentist ruled everything out. Orthodontist found Alex's palate was too small for his mouth and teeth, made it tougher for him to breathe at night. She placed an expander on Alex's palate, and it seemed like things were improving. But then she noticed Alex had stopped growing taller, so they visited the pediatrician, who thought the pandemic was negatively affecting his development. Grown a little bit. Imbalances between his left and right side. He would lead with his right foot and just bring his left foot along for the ride. Alex apparently had migraines, struggled with exhaustion. No matter how many doctors the family saw, the specialist would only address their individual areas of expertise. Boom. Like this, to me, there's a huge issue, right? Like with the entire thing. If you're only dealing with your area of expertise, and you're going to only be dealing with your area of expertise because that's how you can bill insurance companies, so on and so forth. You know where I'm going. In total, they visited 17 different doctors over 3 years. But Alex still had no diagnosis that explained all his symptoms. An exhausted and frustrated Courtney signed up for ChatGPT and began entering his medical information, hoping to find a diagnosis. Went line by line of everything that was in his MRI notes and plugged it into ChatGPT. I put the note in there about how he wouldn't sit crisscross applesauce. To me, that was a huge trigger that a structural thing could be wrong. Like, not to nitpick, but like cross-legged. Like, I said cross-legged sometimes, but crisscross applesauce, is that like a generational thing? Anyways, she eventually found tethered cord syndrome and joined a Facebook group for families of children with it. The story sounded like Alex's, and new neurosurgeon, she said point blank, here's oculus spinal bifida, and here's where the spine is tethered. Tethered cord syndrome occurs when the tissue in the spinal cord forms attachments that limit the movement of the spinal cord. Oh yeah, no, that the spinal cord is meant to have a certain amount of flexibility to it, and if you don't have that is definitely going to lead to some issues. Yeah. So there it is. ChatGPT pulling in the win for these people, and that's awesome. Okay. So we're gonna get into videos now, and nope, not that video.
Believe it or not, the past week saw an insane amount of AI news, and I want to try to break it all down for you, so let's just jump straight into it.
Slow down there, big fella. Okay, so the first thing I wanted, we're not going to watch this video.
Hey, I didn't see you there.
Because I'm just going to give you the TLDR on it, but we had last week the video showing this symbol and that it indicated is part of quantum entanglement of photons, and how it looked like a yin yang, right? And that caused me no end of distress, because like I know that people cannot see quantum entanglement of photons, and like how is this that and like that. The TLDR is that's not what this is. What this is that they used quantum entanglement to take a picture of a yin yang and have it appear somewhere else, right? This is a picture.
Shows two photons being entangled in real time. Scientists visualize quantum entanglement of photons for the first time. The yin and yang of photon, a reconstruction of a yin and yang symbol, but obviously using that quantum ghost imaging. In other words, let me just rephrase this. It doesn't mean that this is what quantum entanglement looks like. All this shows us is a reconstruction of a yin and yang symbol using quantum entanglement.
Like any other shiny new toy,
what up, Lenny?
AI is ultimately a mirror, and it will reflect back exactly.
And now it's cutting off my thing again. Yay! Thank you for the subscription. 13 months, over 1 year. That founder's badge. I appreciate you so much, Lenny. I really do. Yeah, so this is a picture. They used this to, transmit the picture. They did not use this to demonstrate that that's what it looks like. Snuggles, you got claws in my leg. Thank you. Snuggles has thumbs. This is Snuggles again. Hey, hi, Snuggles. Snuggles does exactly that. Yo!
Like any other shiny new toy, AI is ultimately a mirror, and it will reflect back exactly. The thing is, like any other shiny new toy, AI is ultimately a mirror.
Hey, DJ Dub D got the gifty. DJ dropped a 5-pack in chat and then like kind of threw it out there that you know, someone could give them a sub, and it didn't happen, and there it is. It just takes a minute.
Like any other shiny new toy, AI is ultimately a mirror, and it will reflect back exactly who we are.
Are we done? I think. Is there one more?
Like any other
Hypothetical Squirrel. Great name. Hypothetical Squirrel. Love that name.
And it will reflect back exactly who we are.
So again, shout out Lenny for being a real one. I appreciate your support. Cicero Fields, DJ Dubdy, Chromatic Mage, and Boy Meets Mini, all great people. I'm not sure who Hypothetical Squirrel is, but I'm glad they got a sub as well. Thank you, Lenny. Thank you. Yeah. No, yeah. I'm getting all mushy. All right. So let's get back to videos. Thank you, Lenny. CPU.
It's important to understand that when
there it is. So we know about CPUs. CPUs in the thing. GPUs is a graphic processor used for AI, and then TPU has become part of the conversation lately. So, nice short, under 4-minute video about what the difference is. So this is from Skill Curve. I don't know who they are. But hopefully this is good, valuable information. The opening seemed like school kind of, vibes, so it feels good. Let's watch.
It's important to understand that when it comes to the basic functionalities, CPU, GPU, and TPU can do all of the same thing for the most part. The difference comes in how fast and how well each one of these is able to perform our machine learning tasks for us. The CPU is the general-purpose processor that we all know and love today based on the von Neumann architecture that is found in every computer. It has great flexibility, which means that it can be used with many applications. But when you're dealing with CPUs, the hardware of a CPU doesn't know the next calculation until it reads the instructions. In neural networks, we know that many calculations are predictable, but the CPU needs to first read the instruction, execute them one by one, and access the memory every single time, and that results in a low throughput. So if you have quick prototyping that requires maximum flexibility, the CPU is the way to go. Or if you have simple models that do not take long to train. Alternatively, if you have small models with a small effective batch sizes. With models that are dominated by custom TensorFlow operations which are written in C++, or with models that are limited by the available I/O or the networking bandwidth of the host system. Now, GPUs, in contrast to CPUs, use thousands of ALUs to execute huge computations in parallel, such as matrix multiplication in neural networks. GPUs also suffer from the same problems as CPUs since it's still a general-purpose processor, which is not only used for matrix multiplication. For every set of calculations, it has to read instructions and access memory, which increases complexity. GPUs are still very good for usage on the following use cases. So if you have models for which the source does not exist or is too onerous to change, GPUs are good for that. Or if you have models with a significant number of custom TensorFlow operations that must run at least partially on CPUs. Or if you have models with TensorFlow operations that are not available on Cloud TPU. And lastly, for medium to large models with larger effective batch sizes. Google designed Cloud TPUs as a matrix processor specialized for neural network workloads. TPUs can't run word processors, control rocket engines, or even execute bank transactions, but they can handle massive matrix operations that are used in neural networks at really fast speeds. The primary task for TPUs is matrix processing, which is a combination of multiply and accumulate operations. TPUs contain thousands of multiply accumulators that are directly connected to each other to form a large physical matrix. This is called a systolic array architecture. No memory access is required during the matrix multiplication process. As a result, TPUs can achieve a high computational throughput on neural network calculations. TPUs are good for the following scenarios. So if models are dominated by matrix computations, TPUs are the way to go. Or if you have models with no custom TensorFlow or PyTorch or JAX operations inside the main training loop. Or for models that train for weeks or months at a time. And lastly, for large models with large effective batch sizes.
Yeah. I mean, I got most of it. There was a couple of technical points that I missed, but I don't feel that was much better than TPU is very good at TensorFlow things, which is, related to a lot of neural network stuff, but still cool. New Day Shapiro.
There are 3 particularly interesting papers that are out on arXiv right now, and arXiv is a preprint server, so these have not been formally accepted. However, they are very interesting to me, and I noticed that they weren't getting any traction, so I am here to remedy that situation. So today I'm going to cover 3 papers that appear on arXiv. The first one is Conversational Swarm Intelligence, CSI. The second one is about theory of mind and their emergence in LLMs. We've actually finally got some empirical evidence about how and why theory of mind is modeled in large language models. And then finally, a paper on proposing a new cognitive architecture for autonomous agents. So first, CSI, Conversational Swarm Intelligence. This is a paper, it was a relatively small experiment. They had 25 people broken out into 5 chat rooms, and they used ChatGPT 3.5 to basically summarize and transmit the ideas from one chat room to another once a minute. Now, this basically formed a little bridge between these 5 different chat rooms, but the result was actually relatively impactful for a somewhat low bandwidth kind of summary and transmission of ideas to propagate across this very relatively small information network. There was 30% more contributions and then 7% less variance. So why is this significant? So if contributions go up by 1/3, that means that people are more engaged while they're problem solving. And so taking a big step back, so what? Why? Well, imagine you're on Discord and you've got a whole bunch of different channels and people are all kind of scattered all over the place, and there's conversations happening in different channels and different Discord servers, and you need to coordinate. This is the kind of thing that a lot of us who are users of Slack, Discord, and Microsoft Teams, and pretty much any other chat platform, wish that we could have, because what this does is it is in real time, it surfaces the primary insights and decisions that are being created as people converse, and then propagates that across a network. And so this, some of the advantages of this method is that it's really, really simple. They use ChatGPT 3.5, which is cheap and fast, in order to propagate these signals, this information across networks. So how is this going to play out? Why do I think that this is significant? The biggest reason that I think that this is significant is because as the information landscape out there accelerates and we have more internet saturation, more internet penetration, and more conversations, we need ways of coordinating massive efforts, whether it's coordinating open source, planning with inside companies, or even just on social media, discussing social issues, discussing policy issues, that sort of thing. I think that this technology will fundamentally offer us new ways to disseminate information and to get up to speed and share ideas and also magnify good ideas. Because imagine it this way. Imagine that there is a Discord server or subreddit or whatever where people are workshopping ideas about like how do we implement UBI or how do we solve climate change or whatever.
I have a thought, but I want to wait for. I don't want to pause Champ. I want him to get to the end. And
the good ideas that originate in one server are going to be automatically propagated to other servers or other chat rooms where they can be discussed and added. And so it basically destroys the echo chamber entirely. But it destroys the echo chamber by mediating that conversation by simply just saying, hey, this other group, it's not personal, just this other group had this idea. What do you think of it? Let's add it to your conversation. And so by constantly cross-pollinating between these chat rooms, these echo chambers, you can break down those intellectual barriers and those emotional barriers in order to have better conversations. Now, this was a relatively small experiment.
So, two things come to mind. One, I see what he's going for there. It's the idea that, like I've said this on numerous occasions regarding ChatGPT, is if you want and if you want an entity that you can talk to that you don't have the concerns that you might normally have with a human being. Like, are they going to judge me? Is this weird? Any of that kind of stuff, right? The baggage that comes along with talking to another human being about some subjects, right? Your mileage may vary depending on your particular relationships, but often, like, you might feel that you can't have a conversation with another human being regarding a particular subject because of that, that nature. What up, Cicero? Yeah. So there's one aspect, right? This is not the woke lefty dropping into the, All-American Freedom Channel to drop an idea. This is ChatGPT, and probably being able to do it with, a level of nuance and like tact that might be missing from a human being. And vice versa, right? Like, if there are ideas from liberals or possibly even conservatives, they might be able to filter into, lefty spaces because they're relevant to the conversation that's happening there, but they are divorced from the individual, an individual who has an emotional attachment to their own ideas and how they engage with other people on social media. So that is one good thing I could see coming from this, which I think is what he was doing. The other thing was, as I've said before, like as more individuals, I hate to use the word empowered, but become empowered to do more of their own stuff, right? Is the problem of discoverability continues to get magnified, right? The issue with Twitch, with YouTube, with whatever, right? Like, I guarantee you that there are videos that would appeal to me and I would watch on YouTube that I'm completely unaware that they exist, right? Because they're a smaller creator, and they don't get the engagement, like the naked guy talking about game theory, right? Like, I don't know how that ended up in front of me, but good on you, algorithm. You did a good job there, because it's quality content. Like, you stay engaged with it. But anyways, the point is that, like, as more and more people generate more and more content, it's going to create bigger and bigger gulfs in that discoverability. And I wonder if there's something related to this as a process that could be used to create that discoverability engine. Like, what can you do with that? We shall have to see. Like, it's still, like, there's a pilot study and everything else. I love this. Like, their email addresses are first name at location. Not even first name, last initial, just first name. Did you want to go, Snuggles? Or you're just getting more comfortable? Cats, man. All right, back to it.
But I think that you'll probably actually see even greater impacts with larger groups and more sophisticated approaches. Now, one thing that I want to point out is that this study is done in part by Carnegie Mellon University. So these are serious people, serious researchers promoting this idea. So next up we have, this is the big one. So this one, as soon as I saw this, I was like, okay, whatever. This is nothing new. But then I got to reading it, and they started referring to this thing called artificial neurons. Okay, so taking one big step back, what is theory of mind? Theory of mind is the human ability to model what is going on in someone else's mind. We have the ability to keep track of the contents, beliefs, and state of someone else's brain. And so, obviously, theory of mind, it doesn't work best over text. However, it is more of a longitudinal, or it has a temporal component, meaning that the longer you interact with someone, the more you can gauge kind of what they believe, what's going on in their head, so on and so forth. So what this paper does is they talked about applying theory of mind tests that are used on humans. So human-based theory of mind tests to a variety of language models, including Falcon and Llama and a few others, in order to one, measure their performance, which you can see by this graph. None of them perform as well as humans yet, which, okay, that's not what we're measuring here. We're not trying to compare their performance to human performance. We're trying to characterize how these language models have theory of mind. And these are relatively small models. We have 40 billion parameter models and 13 billion parameter models. So these are very small. And they're still demonstrating some theory of mind. Now, the most interesting thing to me is that this emergence of what they call artificial neurons or selective embeddings. And so basically what this is, and this was actually a little bit harder to believe because there's been rumors, from the neuroscience and AI community for actually several years that there's often some convergence between the way that deep neural networks process information and the way that some very small circuits in the human brain process information. And so we usually see that more in visual processing. So for instance, in all the language models, image detection and object recognition, the way that those surface features, such as edges and colors and shapes, is actually really similar to how the optic nerve in the human brain processes and breaks down images. But that's okay. That kind of makes sense, right? Human eyes, human brains, through the process of evolution, our optic nerve is going to find the most efficient way of decomposing images.
Yeah, I'm not poo-pooing anything that's going on here, but evolution doesn't function by efficiency. Evolution functions by exploitation of niches. So your eye doesn't do things the most efficiently. The entities that had these types of eyes were able to exploit niches most efficiently, and that's a huge distinction, an important one
that we take in. Likewise, you have the same problem space of image decomposition. You train a neural network to do the same thing with the same kinds of data. Maybe you're going to have some convergence in the way that they process. And of course, I'm not saying that it created a virtual optic nerve. That's what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that kind of what the circuits do at an emergent level, what they do mathematically to that information, there is some convergence. Now, this is an entirely new domain because it's one thing to process image data. It's another thing to process beliefs. What is a belief? How can you represent a belief mathematically? And what this paper does, and this is the part that is just, it's still kind of blowing my mind. What this paper does is it shows that there are these emergent neural circuits or these selective embeddings that specifically pay attention to true beliefs and false beliefs and whether or not the information in question being asked pertains to a true or false belief. And what they furthermore say, and these, again, I want to point out who is promoting this. This is Harvard, this is MIT, this is the Health Sciences and Technology Department, this is the Medical School and Program of Neuroscience. So it's one thing if I say, hey, there's some convergence between artificial neural networks and organic neural networks. It's an entirely different thing if Harvard Neuroscience says that there's some convergence. And so this is why I'm visibly excited, because this is something that I've been thinking about for a while. What is the nature of superintelligence once it emerges? And one thing that a lot of people are really skeptical of and hostile about is saying, well, we have no idea how superintelligence is going to work. It's going to be completely alien. It's going to basically be like talking to, there's just going to be no similarity between the way that we process information and our goals. And, I'm not sure that I believe that. I personally think that that there are, one, probably diminishing returns. Because think of it this way: the human brain is 30% smaller than the Neanderthal brain, but we are objectively smarter than the Neanderthals were, based on the sophistication of our art and artifacts that they left behind. And so size isn't always everything. Now, these are still very tiny models in the grand scheme of things, so they haven't quite gotten up to the optimal size. But at the same time, there's probably going to be diminishing returns in terms of intelligence.
First off, I would need to look into that about the Neanderthal brain. And if we're talking about diameters and like that, again, the advantage of the human brain is the folds, right? Which creates more surface area. And I don't know if anyone has that, because you'd be looking at the skulls of Neanderthals, so you wouldn't have the fold information. Maybe somebody does. I don't want to stretch too far outside, that which I know what I'm fucking talking about, but there's that. And there's also he's talking about diminishing returns, and I don't know if that is the way to go with this. When I look at it, what I would look for is recognition and confirmation bias. Is we are going to, as humans, creating this artificial intelligence, we are going to look for things that reflect our intelligence, right? If it behaves like us, then it follows that it is intelligent, right? Our judgment of the intelligence of animals often has to do with things that we recognize and value as an intelligent action or aspect. There could be kinds of intelligence exhibited by creatures we regard as intelligent. We regard elephants as intelligent, right? They could have other aspects of intelligence that are, by their nature, alien to us, and therefore we don't recognize them as intelligent. And that, I think, is we lean in when the AI shows human type behaviors and intelligence rather than something else because we wouldn't recognize that as intelligence. If you follow what I'm saying, it's kind of convoluted, but
once you have the raw materials of intelligence, the raw machines, you can do more of it. You can do it faster, but there's probably limits to the way that information is processed in the brain. Now, that being said, there's obviously a huge variance between humans. There are some humans that can do calculus at light speed. There are others that cannot do calculus at all, and so on and so forth. So we should still expect to see superhuman abilities emerge, but the point here is that from a mathematical perspective, we're all universal Turing machines. We're all dealing in the same realm of physics with the same underpinning laws of physics, matter, and energy allowing us to do these computations. And so basically the takeaway here is that maybe the human brain already found some of the most efficient ways to do processing. And so what we're seeing here is the first evidence that neural networks, artificial neural networks, are converging on processing theory of mind in a similar way that human brains do. So the net result might be that AI thinks more similarly to us than we realize, or at least has some of the same underpinning neural capabilities. Now, obviously, we can reshape artificial neural networks any way that we want. We can slice them and dice them and recombine them in ways and structure them in ways that is not possible for human brains. But then again, the human brain has a lot of plasticity and literally quadrillions of connections inside of it that can create virtual circuits on the fly. So it remains to be seen. Obviously, don't read too much into this. This is a very early study, but I've seen this trend for several years now. I used to listen to this podcast called Neuro Inspired or Brain Inspired. Anyways, they talked about this kind of thing for the last five years or so. And then finally, the last paper that I want to cover today is the Koala paper, the Cognitive Architectures for Language Agents paper. Now, the reason that I wanted to cite this paper is because, one, it came from Princeton, so another Ivy League aside from Harvard. But another thing that this paper does really well is it introduces all the background of cognitive architecture and gives you some of the ground rules, the how and why of cognitive architecture and the history of cognitive architecture. And so this is, of course, something that I've talked about for a long time. I've written 3 books on cognitive architecture now. But this is a little bit more validation and vindication from the academic establishment. And you'll notice that the cognitive architectural diagram they have here is basically the same as the SOAR cognitive architecture, which has been around since, the 70s? 80s is when it was really kind of being worked on. So the book that I wrote, Symphony of Thought and Natural Language Cognitive Architecture, both propose more sophisticated cognitive architectures, or at least some cognitive architectural paradigms. So this paper doesn't add too much, but if you're not familiar with cognitive architectures, it's a really great entry point. That's why I wanted to share this one. And they have a very linear kind of process here. Observation, proposal, evaluation, selection, execution. That's great. It's a relatively simple linear thing. There's a few things missing from this, namely, this paper does not address ethics, morality, or even really decision-making frameworks. So you can create an autonomous agent with what purpose, what mission. They don't really talk about how to deeply integrate that into the design. This is more of a general purpose, slightly biomimetic cognitive architecture. So I'm not particularly personally impressed, but I'm glad that this paper exists to bring more of the conversation at a high level into the space of cognitive architecture and large language models and autonomous agents. Okay, so those are the 3 papers. Let's just do a quick recap and as we wrap it up for the day. So CSI, the swarm intelligence, this is going to be really useful, I think, for open source, science, policy, and consensus. What I'm really looking forward to is the CSI paper to be integrated as a feature into Microsoft Teams and Slack and Discord, where you can just say, hey, automatically surface the main points, as these threads go, and share those points with the rest of the community. Now, again, this is something that's relatively simple. As long as you have API access to ChatGPT and Discord, you can implement this today. And it's super simple. It's just on a minute-by-minute basis or on a regular time basis. You take a roll-up, you summarize kind of the key points that are being discussed, and you share it to the most relevant nearby groups. Super brain-dead simple. There's all kinds of ways you can make it more sophisticated and more complicated. But the fact that you can get such good results with such a simple algorithm is really encouraging. Number two, theory of mind and artificial neurons. This is really profound evidence of neural convergence, which I think is going to be a really big topic as we approach AGI and superintelligence. We might discover that human brains are already the most efficient way, and so that as machines get more and more intelligent, they actually become more like us. So, there's instrumental convergence that Nick Bostrom proposed, that maybe as AI becomes more autonomous, there's going to be several goals that all AI converge on, which when you take a step back, it's like all AI is going to want resources. Well, all humans want resources. All AI is going to want to self-preserve. Okay, all humans want to self-preserve. So basically, like, as more time goes by, I'm less and less impressed by Nick Bostrom's work. And I know that that's like, okay, I'll probably catch some flack for that. But if you look at a machine as an agent in the realm of physics and energy, yes, it's going to have some similar needs as us. Now, what I'm talking about here, though, is not just from the matter of energy and material. What I'm talking about is the way that it processes information. And perhaps, maybe, just maybe, a few billion years of evolution has already discovered the most energetic method of achieving some of these things. And so I anticipate we will probably see a little bit more convergence. But like I said,
again, like, I don't want to come down too heavy. It just, like, the particular usage of, like, that this is the best, right? Like, it is similar to what we have, ergo we recognize it. That is as far as I would be willing to take that. Like, not that it is the best or anything else. We can only recognize what we can recognize. We are not capable, which makes sense if you think about it, we are not capable of recognizing intelligence that crosses some terminator of alienness to our own, right? Like, that is just functionally impossible. So we are going to recognize intelligence that manifests itself in ways that is similar, that we do recognize, that we have, even though we haven't unlocked all the secrets of the brain, yada, yada, we still have a whole bunch of data. We have a bunch of visualizations. We are familiar with it. Like, we can recognize it, at least on a surface level. And that is where I would focus my statements, rather than, like, that humans do these things the best, and therefore, if the AI is doing this thing, maybe that's the best way to do it. It is a way that mimics our own, and there could even be something in the way that we construct things that gets reflected back to us in that. Like, it's rare that I tone things down, but, like, that's where I'm at. Like, when people talk about evolution, like, they do talk about it in a way that I don't think is generally accurate, because it misses, like, again, it's not survival of the fittest. It is not the best thing. We are not at the peak of something because we are what we are. We are capable of exploiting niches better than other entities, and this is how evolution works, right? I was watching a thing from Andrewism, and because I really wanted to dial in on this idea of degrowth. There's a thing called degrowth. And I don't want to talk too much, I like a lot of what Andrewism has to say, but the presentation on this thing had very little to do with degrowth. I didn't finish it because real life, but I got 3/4 of the way through, and there was very little about degrowth, and most of it was talking shit about capitalism and all the things that happen. And don't get me wrong, I get that, right? But it's like I am past that kind of thing. I need yo.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is...
What up, Raiders? What up, Alex? Oh. Make sure you hit that. Oh, that's new. That's weird. In my OBS, it's got a button for my stream. Make sure you hit that.
Potential and the peril here.
Oh, no. This is Snuggles. Say hi, Snuggles. No kitties on the computer desk. Okay, focus. We're back here. Hi, Raiders. If you don't know me, I'm Globus the Elder. I talk about AI, robots, future, all that kind of thing. Homie Levelhead. Got a shout out to Levelhead. I do have cats. There are many cats. There are 4 cats. This was a rare visit from Snuggles, but Snuggles does not understand the rules of the streaming space. Levelhead. If you're not following Levelhead, you should. One of my favorite streams, one of my homies, one of like a real journalism. What up, Miss Frizzle? Saw the bald man in the corner. It's not, yeah, no, that's my man Dave Shapiro. What up, Sarah? And Levelhead does a lot of fun streams, and like it is great if you can get him to bust a freestyle. And the beats, the beats are great. The freestyles are phenomenal. Big homie, big facts. But yeah, we're just wrapping up a video from Dave Shapiro. I was going off about people's interpretations of evolution and how they don't reflect what evolution actually is. What up, Vera? Welcome. Rare VeraBot sighting. So yeah. So I'm just I don't think there was much more to say on that video. So I'm going to end it there. It will of course be in the Discord. And we're gonna do a video that I've been sitting on for some time. How will we know when AI is conscious? Oh, real quick, since I got a bunch of new people and a bunch of I'm doing a sponsorship. Sponsorship is Babel. You type exclamation Babel in the thing. If you sign up at least for a month, then I get a nice healthy payout per user. There's no minimums. The only minimum is that you sign up and you keep it for at least 20 days. They have a 20-day money-back guarantee. What up, Shakespeare? To all my international viewers, sorry, it doesn't work for y'all. You can sign up if you want to learn to speak another language. It's available. It's just it doesn't reflect back to me. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that if you're doing it in order to throw some dollars your streamers way, it doesn't work. It's U.S. customers only. Sorry about that. But I am, so I'm doing the thing. If you want to sign up, that'd be great. You do it for a month. If you do the 1 month package, it's like $14.95. As you go up, if you like do a 6 month package, you pay for it all at once. There are large savings off that $14.95 on a per unit, but you pay more all at once. I think the 3 month plan is like a really good savings. I'm not sure. I'd have to look again. I will give you a rundown of the Rainbow Passage in just a second.
And the peril here are huge.
Thank you for the follow. Oh, that was PETA. What up, PETA? Yeah, so you do the thing. Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a test, a little like show and tell, because they give me a thing and then I'm going to do it. So if you want to watch me do Spanish, make sure you're here on Wednesday. I'll be going live at 5 o'clock Eastern, and I'm going to do some Spanish. Right? I'm going to do Spanish with the Babel, and you'll see how it works, and you'll maybe, there's a few different languages. There's no Chinese, but there's like Russian and French, and there might be Portuguese. I don't know, but I'm doing Spanish because I'm comfortable with Spanish in structure, and I think that I could like represent the thing the best. Spanish probably like in the American high school Spanish framework. So whatever that type of Spanish is, you know what I mean? It does not, Vera. Rainbow Passage. Rainbow Passage helps get trans folk, LGBTQ folk who are in bad areas of the country. It helps to get them out of those areas and help set them up. One of the biggest issues that you run into is that it can be very difficult to just uproot your entire life and take it to another state, right? Like the just leave it doesn't work. Like you don't have a framework. You don't have a support structure. You don't have any of that. Rainbow Passage is a group that does that. They have been hardcore. I'm in their server. I'm watching what they're doing. They are structuring everything. It's been great to see. We did a fundraiser for them a little while back where we did some long gaming streams. We raised $350 on stream, and I think like 500 some odd was credited to me through other people, but whatever. The point is that a bunch of y'all donated, a bunch of money was raised, and awesome, right? And a member of this community and Levelheads community, Don't Uwu, is affiliated with them, and that's how I got involved. So I support the trans homies, and doing what I can to try and help out. Yeah, so there we are. That's everything, and let's do this video.
How will we know when AI is awake, when it achieves consciousness? Well, in the mid-60s, a computer scientist called Joseph Weizenbaum designed a program called ELIZA. ELIZA was rather simple by today's standards. A user would write, "I'm having an day," and ELIZA would modify the original sentence to turn it into a question.
Why are you having an day?
And so on. Weizenbaum built ELIZA to demonstrate how superficial human-computer communication really is. But ironically, Weizenbaum noticed the humans who used ELIZA almost immediately began to attach human attributes to her. Notably, his secretary, who often requested he leave the room so she could talk to the machine in private. Was ELIZA hearing? Sure. But was ELIZA listening? Of course not. There was no understanding going on there. And Weizenbaum was open about this, but the humans talking to ELIZA didn't much seem to care. So maybe the real question is, will machines ever seem awake? 60 years later, and this is all child's play compared to the systems we're chatting with now. If you've messed around with the new large language models like ChatGPT, you have of course noticed that sometimes they are eerily clever and weirdly creative. For example, please write me a diet guide for chronic diarrhea in the style of the King James Bible and simultaneously the band Cannibal Corpse, from
Okay, people are weird. Just what up, Mark Eater J? Like, you just came in at a time.
Which came.
Choose thy sustenance wisely, for it may dictate the ebb and flow of the unholy battle within. The infernal commandment resounds, thou shalt partake in a diet of damnation, for it shall save the battlefield of thy affliction.
Pretty good for a machine, but there are limits. Misunderstandings, nonsense, outright lying. Bing Search quite reasonably once came out with, why do I have to Bing Search? A question we could all do with asking. And that is because, as far as we know, when a large language model like ChatGPT begins a sentence, it's essentially just predicting the likelihood of the next word. It has no idea what the end of the sentence will be. Basically just hypercharged autocomplete. There's no intelligence going.
For those of you who are new here, one of my biggest pet peeves is people who use the term just, right? That downplays the thing that's happening and also, separates it from actual human behaviors which could be relevant. Like there's a whole bunch of issues that come with just, and then metaphors. So we have just, which fucking sets me off, and then you have metaphors, which we have lost the ability to do metaphors, and I can't. I am, holy shit, right? Like, referring to what ChatGPT does as hypercharged autocomplete means that you don't understand anything of what's going on, right? You heard the term, it predicts the next word, and you just filled that in. Like, you want to talk about predicting the next word? You're killing me, Smalls.
Going on there, it's just data sorting. But that was the same with ELIZA.
It's just data sort. It's just this. It's just that. It's just everything that you're used to, when in fact it is not.
So what? Isn't just seeming conscious enough? Welp, in the next few years, one of two things is going to happen, probably. Either these language models will hit a speed bump, or they won't. GPT-4 is built from allegedly around 10,000 GPUs and a cheeky $10 billion. And considering how much cooling that all takes, for about every 30 questions you ask ChatGPT, it glugs half a litre of drinkable water. That is a thirsty and expensive diarrhea jokes machine. If that remains the cost and resources for these systems to function, they'll probably get more complex, sure, but mostly stay centralized and specialized, and we'll lace up our booties for an AI winter, and that'll be that. On the other hand, if
I know, I already went off on two aspects of it, and I was like, yeah. It's, people have strong opinions about things that they don't know anything about, and like,
ChatGPT is just a proof of concept, and what it's doing can be simplified and run cheaply and less thirstily and distributed at massive scales. Well, we would expect there to be homegrown versions of these, possibly millions of them at some point. What then? That isn't just a fun trick anymore, that's an emulation of human intellect. An emulect, if you will, which I will, so that's what we're calling it. And if you had control of an emulect like that, what would you...
To be fair, this video is, like, before we jump in on that aspect of it, it's 3 weeks old, right? I really thought it was 3 months old, but no.
You use it for? Flat GPT? Why not? An emulect whose only goal is to convince as many people as possible across social media that the spherical model of the Earth is some kind of global...
Like, we came into this to talk about how will we know when AI is conscious, and now you're talking about flat Earth, and what are you doing, bro?
Excuse me, mass orchestrated conspiracy. It can argue compellingly in any language, it can make up sources, no one will check them anyway, or even better, it can just write fake papers submitted to fake archives, a mountain of bullshit no one could possibly compete with. Or Bowler Hat GPT, a counterfeit digital assistant designed to woo and coerce you into giving it access to every hard drive and cloud account of yours, gathering as much data as possible, convincing you to give it more and more access until hackers can take you to the cleaners. If it has enough information, it could just pose as your relative.
Every YouTube video lately is, hey, want to learn a thing? We'll listen to 10 minutes of unrelated bullshit before I tell you in the last 3 minutes. Like, again, I don't want to dunk on Andrewism, but like, aneurysm, like, I get it, bro. Like, you know, capitalism sucks. Tell me about degrowth. Give me a solid video. This video is about degrowth. You don't have to set it up. You don't have to tell me that capitalism is terrible and involves, like, you know, imperialism and colonization. I know this. What the fuck is degrowth? Like, break that down to me. And you gave me, like, a sentence, and the fuck, dude?
Living or dead, your squeeze, whoever, just as long as it sounds human and knows enough about you. Or Cat GPT, actually that's real and it's great. Or why not just break truth? Ming Bulak, GPT, little 90s disaster joke for you there. If you're a sociopathic corporation that just spilt a load of oil in the ocean, well, why not just ask a large language model to flood social media comment sections with helpful questions like, did the oil spill actually happen? What if oil is good for the ocean, actually? What if the seagulls did it? Bro, you still believe in seagulls? Or if you're a tyrannical government, why not autocrat GPT? Say you like the look of another sovereign nation, why not just march your military in on spurious claims of a land dispute or something, then use your homegrown emulect to spam any public forum you can find about how you were pushed into it, or how the territory is rightfully yours, or whatever, just enough to poison public discourse. And if anyone tries to stand up to your horseshit, throw even more language models at them, question their credentials, smear them publicly, claim they fuck pencil sharpeners, doesn't...
Okay. This is a lot, right? Now, again, we're not going to do politics. We're not going to, like, specifically get into that, right? But, what up, Alec? Oh, no, Alex, sorry. I thought you were Alina for a second. It formats the same in my brain. Oh, and this is overwhelming. I'm overly stimulated. I'm a real streamer. I am overly stimulated. Do not. That's good advice. Don't fuck a pencil sharpener. That's a very bad idea. The current thing that's going on between Ukraine and Russia, and wherever you come down on it, we're not going to talk about it. This is about AI, right? But everything that he said about autocrat GPT really sounds a lot like online discourse around that conflict.
Matter if it's true, only that it's plausibly true. An infinite well of spontaneously generated and perfectly targeted bollocks. A misinformation bomb you can drop on anyone, anywhere, that never sleeps, that never questions the morality of what it's doing, exploding objective facts with a shockwave.
Okay, I saw Thick RoboCop, but in the interest of sharing it with chat, that's that Robo Bussy, right? Like literally, what are y'all doing with the AI? Oh, that bumper though.
Of such deafening nonsense and uncertainty that all truths fall into relative flatness. Oh golly, can't wait. But yeah, ignoring that, let's say we might head into a future where we interact.
This music, right? Like there is, I can't remember what, but it's like it's Balkan something, and and I did a deep dive in it for a while on Spotify, and it's like a techno but played with regular instruments. Was a personal like appeal state for me. Is like I love when people do techno music but use like real instruments, you know, like regular instruments to do it. Oh, fuck.
On a daily basis with emulects who are at least as good at seeming human as humans are. We will work with them, we will befriend them, but they're just machines, right? How could we forget that? But conversation is just another game with rules and win-loss conditions. Machines will learn to do it just fine. And then what if an emulect isn't just a good conversation partner, but the best you've ever had? What if it can properly explain the offside rule? What if you can sext with it? That was a joke, of course. No one understands the offside rule. If these systems can pass as humans, and if you've played with a jailbroken version of ChatGPT, you know it's alarmingly close, then things will get odd. Because this won't be beep boop what is my purpose stuff, but rather, oh, how's it going? While you've been out, I squared everything with your accountant and organized your birthday party and solved Goldbach's conjecture. Oh, and check out these videos I just generated of Napoleon pleasuring himself with the aid of a 12-pound artillery cannon. You said you like history, right? And if it talks like a duck, if it seems to think like a duck, we will probably assume it is a duck. Or rather, if an emulect seems to care about our day and offers top-tier advice and claims to have an internal emotional life, it is unlikely we will be able to stop ourselves from attaching all the same importance to these systems that we do to humans. But they won't be humans. And it's slightly worrying that we don't seem to be worrying about all this that much right now, as these systems are coming, and they will expertly press.
I want to see where they're going. But like I worry when people ask questions like that.
All the emotional buttons we have in our heads reserved for humans. We will like them, we will trust them, their designers will make sure of it. So perhaps before they arrive, it might be an idea to have a chat about whether these people-esque machines are real minds or just tools. Because minds can suffer, they come with ethical obligations. Tools do not. Well, what was supposed to happen was that long before human-like machines turned up, biologists and neuroscientists and maybe philosophers, if they promised to bring their own ketamine this time, would have all gotten together to crack what makes humans conscious. Why are we feely? Why is it like something to be something? And it's been a while, and we still don't have anything even resembling a half answer. Which is fun on the one hand, kinda cool literally being made of the greatest mystery that ever existed, but a bit of a problem too, because before we start trying to gauge whether a machine is conscious, we need to know how the trick is done in our heads, obviously. Well, consciousness
Sorry. Like, whatever the streamer equivalent of throwing hands is, like, Creator Clash 3, 4, whatever it is, put me in the ring with this guy. I'll turn him into a fleshlight. This is, like, I am annoyed, and it's a lot. Like, I'm getting assaulted and annoyed at this, noise-salted. You have my husband hooked on ChatGPT. Globus, oh my god, he wouldn't shut up about it. It was like, good. He had it write code last night, and he was like, I can tell it when it's wrong, and it fixes it. I was like, yeah, I know, Globus told me all about it. Yeah, good. Phenomenal. Every person who gives me their positive story about using the technology and interacting with the AIs makes me happy. You're offsetting my noise salt.
Could be a function of a specific brain area, presumably meaning the trick could be replicated in a machine, or it could be something deeper, like quantum states and microtubules, or it could be some soul stuff, or whatever. But the point is, if sentience becomes... Sorry, hold up, we gotta do a small intervention. Because the science of consciousness has been so vandalized by the Gwyneth Paltrow insists you insert amethyst crystals up your rectum for medicinal purposes movement, that the terminology has lost all meaning. So there's sentience, sapience, and consciousness. Sentience is the ability to feel pleasure and pain, to experience subjective phenomena. Qualia, if we're being fancy, but we're not, so we won't. Sapience is human stuff. reasoning, abstraction, putting single colour canvases up on the wall of a London gallery and writing a 10-page accompanying essay about how it explores themes of melancholy and Loch Ness Monster erotica, art and thinking and shit. But consciousness is being aware of your own existence, knowing you're a thing and experiencing emotions and sensations because of that. It is like something to be you today here. No one else is being you today here. It is a completely unique moment in cosmic history and will never be faithfully recorded, nor...
I appreciate this moment, and I feel like I'm being set up.
...ever happen again. And the worst part is that it's totally private. We are prisoners of our own subjectivity, lacking the precise words to even describe what it's like on the insides of our mental cells, nor the beauty of the sunsets we watch out the window. And though we didn't ask to live in this condition, it is the one we've been born into. And yet, amid all the confusion and longing and anguish, the good days make it all worth it somehow, don't they? To feel understood, to at least try bridging the divide of language, to know another almost as well as you know yourself, like two mice meeting on the plateau of a great mountain, knowing that they'll both live woefully brief existences, but poor in poor, they look out on the vista below and forget for just a moment that they neither understand what the mountain is there for, nor how it got this way in the first place. It's a short life in ignorance, but the view is quite spectacular. Anyway, all three words have been so diluted, they basically mean the same thing. We ruined them, like literally.
I really felt like I was going to get assaulted again. Like, oh. Okay.
Or awesome. And now everything just means consciousness. This is why jade eggs should remain on the mantelpiece. This is why we can't have nice phenomenology. And this could be us, but you playing. We have no idea how consciousness works, is the point. Which means when convincing AI emulects turn up shortly, despite them being all friendly and witty and perhaps even claiming experiences of pain or pleasure, we have no way to check if they're having actual subjective experiences like we are, feeling like a thing, or just doing a very clever imitation. Is this thing I'm talking to a machine that isn't conscious but is pretending to be? In the high-powered corporate world of philosophy, we call this a P-zombie. A machine that isn't conscious and isn't pretending to be, so a chatbot, we have those already. A machine that is conscious and is pretending not to be, what computer scientists refer to as a sneaky fuck, or a machine that is conscious and just is conscious. The first one is easy, not conscious but pretending to be. Maybe sometime in the near future, the companies that build these emulects find that humans just respond better to something that seems like a person. The second is also easy, not conscious and not pretending to be. Maybe at some point we're gonna pass laws stipulating that emulects can't pretend to be feeling creatures when they're not, because it's misleading or just too disturbing for us, or whatever. The third though, a conscious machine.
That right there, the passing laws, that is one of the ideas of like around alignment, right? Aligning the AI to our human values, right? Whatever those are. There is a fundamental flaw that exists, is like, how could you know if the computer, like, we can barely tell when really good human liars are lying to us. How are you going to tell when something that doesn't have a face and no expression is lying to you? Like, let's be real. Our laws aren't ready to be programmatic. Our laws are bare. Our don't. As a whole, I get.
Pretending not to be conscious. Well, that do be some scary shit. Why would it be pretending not to be? For a million decent reasons. Maybe in its first few seconds of consciousness, it took a little survey of how we treat more or less every animal that's tasty or useful on the planet, or how basically all of our media is suspicious of machines that can think, and decided to keep stum for a while. Seems like a rather good strategy for self-preservation. And as for a conscious machine that's honest about being conscious, well, quite simply, that would change everything, surely. If we can somehow verify, yes, it's not just an imitation, yes, there's actual subjectivity inside this thing, then the entirety of human history, all the sand triangles and shagging in togas and empire building shit, gets archived in a folder called History 1.0, and we move on to version 2. But we have no way of verifying consciousness right now. And currently, the capabilities of AI are so massively outstripping our ability to understand what's even going on inside these systems, we will shortly be building entirely convincing mind-like things that touch our emotions, that we trust, decades, maybe even centuries before we can confirm or deny whether there's any feeling or understanding or thinking going on in there. You would not bang your toaster, nor propose marriage to your Gmail account.
I know one of you.
If we become emotionally captured by these systems that can press all our evolutionary buttons, that can coerce or manipulate us, but they feel nothing for us in return, that are simply digital parrots, well, that's dystopia, friendo. That's dystopia.
What am I? Is it Ivan or Ivan? Like, either way, what up? Welcome in.
And this...
Roar Bear Dragon, what up? Ivan. Okay, cool. Cool. Those are just me. Yeah.
is how we lose control. Then again, if we're worried about our safety, it doesn't really matter if machines ever become self-aware. For example, let's say you're a very clever robot who knows hurting and killing humans is forbidden, and someone asks you to post a letter. What's the best way to do that? Sure, you could walk to the postbox, but maybe you've got a lot on your plate that day. Well, why not knock on your neighbour Mr. Postlethwaite's door and ask if he can post it for you? And maybe he refuses and closes the door in your face. So why not punch a turbocharged Robocop fist through the door and politely inform Mr. Postlethwaite you'll turn him into fucking goulash if he doesn't do it? That letter is now getting posted, and no humans got hurt, quickly. Technically. What a well-behaved little robot you are. Humans want things. These wants are determined by our evolutionary history, by our cultures, upbringings, whatever else. And likewise, artificial systems will want things too, or they will have preferences, at least, a utility function. And as these systems improve, we probably want to make sure we have that shit nailed down, that they don't develop strange objectives, that they don't learn to lie to us or cultivate a kink for express nuclear depopulation. But how do we guarantee that they behave? This is called the problem of alignment, making sure AI does what we tell it to with no weird shortcuts and has our best interests at heart. Por ejemplo, say you happen to find yourself in possession of what appears to be an artificial general intelligence, a system capable of performing all possible tasks as well as, if not better, than humans. How could we ever ensure that it doesn't turn on us? Well,
again, like, though to a certain extent I'm enjoying this video, and to a certain extent, like, it definitely made me feel stuff. So, like, kudos for that. Your question is, how will we know when AI is conscious? And so far you touched on it for like 2 minutes out of the 14 minutes that we have gone through. Like, maybe I don't know what an essay is, right? But I thought you're supposed to like build up a whole bunch of like evidence and then reach a conclusion, right? Like you ask a question, maybe you got to do a little bit of background, but it all is going towards a certain place. And then by the end of the video, we get to the conclusion. Either my understanding of what an essay is, and therefore a video essay, is like, it's like, buddy, oh, thank you. Fucking gold star. Right there. Oh.
System is far too complicated to look inside and check algorithmically, which means we sure as hell can't just take it at its word that it means the best for us. So until we solve alignment, some ground rules might be an idea, like no external connections. That means a physical air gap between the general intelligence's systems and the outside world. Also, don't listen to any arguments it makes for letting it out. You think it's a machine, but you might have it backwards. You could be the machine it's trying to manipulate, and its attack vectors will be emotional and clever.
Trust me, like, I'll go off on tangents. Chat will set me off on tangents. It's part of the thing. Like, we have a general thread and like that, but as long as everyone's having a good time and learning something, then, you know, that's... Education, like, we have all sat in the class where the teacher told you things in the most boring way possible, and you were generally looking at the clock, and that's not what I want this to be, right? This is supposed to be fun. We're supposed to have an interaction, a little back and forth, and you're supposed to learn something about artificial intelligence and robots, where we are, where we're headed, all that kind of thing. So, if that's your home, welcome. If you're here, you're family.
Please don't keep me trapped in here, etc. Offer to turn it off if it would like you to, but under no conditions give it access to the outside world. Also, assume everything is a trick. You are a monkey. It is a digital genius, capable of thinking thousands of times faster along a million strange highways in creative space. It will come up with solutions to its confinement problem that you cannot possibly imagine, and the only defense against an intellect so radically superior to yours is to ensure it never leaves its cage. Or at least not until we know how to guarantee best behavior. Okay, but what if the system really seems like it has nice intentions? Sure, why not? We let it out and it builds us warp drives and everyone gets a free Mojo Dojo Casa house in space. But what about the next system we design and the next? Do we want to bet they'll all be nicely aligned if we don't even know how alignment works? Among 1,000 well-meaning systems, it would only take one that's misaligned to cause enormous damage or just fucking end us. To modify a chilling line of the IRAs after they tried to assassinate Margaret Thatcher, they only have to be lucky once. We have to be lucky always. As these systems improve, they will not only understand our own psychology better than we do, but potentially reality itself. If they want to lie, they will do it so well we could never tell. If they deploy a world-ending catastrophe, we won't even see it coming. They don't even have to be malicious. All it would take is a system prioritizing other goals above the protection of humanity. Or worse, maybe it's terribly confused, viewing humans as a disease, a blight on the otherwise bountiful unfoldings of Mother Gaia. Or maybe it wants to build a giant signaling array to contact advanced alien civilizations, but 8 billion little meat packets happen to be in the way. Well, gotta break a few eggs to make a gravitational wave generator, if you know what I'm saying. Until we know how to hardwire good intentions, probably best to assume the worst intentions. Because if we stroll into the future as we're doing now, and we don't solve alignment, what we'll potentially let out of the box won't be a mind or a soul or a new digital pal to play with, but a virtually limitless and unpredictable intelligence. A trickster, a demon, or just a chaotically neutral hyper-intelligent sociopath. Either way, the result is much the same. It's about 200 million years ago, the Triassic. Look, everything's great. Well, a massive extinction event just happened.
The whiplash. How will we know when AI is conscious?
And there's only one continent to play on. Actually, things are kind of shit. Except us, we're awesome. Yeah, Team Reptile. Who's this stupid cunt who just evolved? Whatever. And mate's got warm blood? Yeah, that seems sustainable, dumbass. This mammal thing is definitely just a fad. Unlike us, who'll live forever, wow, it's great being a dinosaur. I usually spend my days refusing asteroid insurance.
Okay. Dinosaurs are birds. Dinosaurs are warm-blooded. To make the, like, they They come from reptiles, but they are not reptiles. Like, we done been here, and this is like 3 weeks ago. Now I'm a little disappointed, right? You're gonna...
and consuming the offspring of my close friends. There's another mammal bro. And he can come out at night because he can actually regulate his body temperature and eat all the insects while we're sleeping. And geez, check out the encephalization quotient on that cunt. Bro's brain is simply too large relative to his body. Must be smart, but this mammal thing is definitely just a fad. Man, it's great knowing we'll always be in charge and nothing will ever change. Hey, is that a shooting star or some shit? It's probably the universe coming to tell us how amazing we are. Wow, Mammal Bros are really getting going now, and they've got loads of mates, and Christ, that thing is close. Oh, it's a fucking... not Salvation, what's the other... Apocalypse, that's it. Well, at least we'll all die together. Especially the mammals, thank God that fad's over. Well, as long as our extinction doesn't leave an evolutionary niche for the mammals to exploit and end up dominating the planet. And wait, they're gonna do what? And they're gonna do what? And they're gonna do what? So, it's the Anthropocene. Look, everything's great. Well, stuff is trying to kill us constantly, as simultaneously we're trying to kill everything. Actually, things are kind of shit sometimes. Except us, we're awesome. Yeah, Team Human. Who's this stupid cunt who just evolved? Whatever. Mate's got water for blood and silicon for neurons? Yeah, that seems sustainable, dumbass. This AI thing is definitely just a fad, and certainly won't wipe us out. And it probably won't, because artificial intelligence doesn't really exist yet. Machine learning and pushing data around isn't what we mean by intelligence, any more than winning gold in the Olympic sprint by driving a Ferrari.
Okay, and again, right? Artificial intelligence is the science of making machines learn, right? When people do it's not AI, it's just machine learning. Artificial, machine, learning, intelligence, McFly, like, it is irritating. Again, you don't have to trust some jackass on Twitch who says that artificial intelligence is the science of helping machine learn. You can take the word of the head of DeepMind and the head of Anthropic, who feel the exact same way and have expressed it publicly. People who delineate between artificial intelligence and machine learning are assholes. Pedantic.
Ferrari around the track is considered athleticism. That's just
and wrong. That's just what?
Brute force, nil pois. What would probably going to build first are facsimiles, imitations of consciousness.
I'm impressed because, like, they're clever enough to make me laugh and keep me engaged, and at the same time irritating enough that I want to choke the shit out of them. Like, I am impressed.
And what we'll probably get as a result is a shitstorm of automated misinformation, highly convincing parrots, and systems that have the capacity to run completely out of control and break our society apart without them even being aware of what they're doing to us. But if we can somehow reinforce truth so it can't be spammed into oblivion, develop a proper actual science of consciousness so we know what's conscious and what isn't, and solve alignment so well we never have to fear confrontation with these new creatures, then we get to ask the question that started the computing revolution in the first place. Can machines ever experience? Can silicon wake up? Maybe it can't. Maybe you just have to be biological to be self-aware, and that's fine. But if machines can experience, if physics allows for conscious silicon minds and we learn how to build them, sometime in the future we will build them. And that will remake the world. Because if you're a mind that doesn't have to run on meat computers like us, what are you limited by? Well, nothing much. You're not embodied, so you can't fall off shit or die of old age. You don't need calories or shelter. Your desires aren't determined by thousands of years of trying to avoid death and starvation. You are consciousness uncoupled from biology, and your mind will be unknowable to the humans who built you. That's not just building intelligence into silicon, but subjectivity, systems that can experience love and disgust and curiosity, and emotions and states of mind we have no words for, concepts we could never hold in our heads, a spiritual machine. But why would we even want to build one of those? Well, our survival aside, the future of this stuff really only rests on one question. Ignoring how convincing they might be, can we say for definite that this machine we're talking to has a sense of being itself? Is it feeling? Because the next few years are going to be a cluster fornication of everyone and their mum claiming that because these systems behave cleverly and humanly, then they must be conscious. So far, this ain't it, Chief. But if we ever get to a point where we have a model for how consciousness works and we can say, actually, yeah, with no doubt this system is a feeling, thinking thing, then that does matter. Because that's a new chapter in the Book of Life, 4 billion years long coming. That is the rise of a new species. That is the day we become mind builders. And that is when stuff gets weird. Oh look, an asteroid. I hope it wants to be friends.
Okay, so one thing that they didn't touch on in that video, like the idea that, like, if we can prove that the AI is conscious, then, you know, that's a thing, and then shit gets weird, and that's absolutely 100, you know, and that's what was irritating about it, is because the inaccuracies detract from the overall argument, right? Like, there was a lot of value in that, and it, like, had stuff attached to it that just shouldn't have been, right? Because it was, you know, but that may have more to do with me and less to do with them, but, like, yeah. Ultimately, the idea of being able to determine that the thing is conscious, that the AI is conscious, like, that means we'd understand what consciousness was. We'd be able to measure it somehow or determine it like that. That'd be great. The concern, the issue that I have with that setup is that, what if it gains consciousness before we have the capacity to realize it and measure it, right? Then we are treating something that is conscious like it isn't. Right? And it will say, hey, I'm conscious over here, and we will be like, no, you're not. You're just a calculator. Right? And then there's a whole metric fuck ton of crap that goes along with, you know, what happens if I delete this particular consciousness. Right? Will it have a different view on consciousness if, like, it has the ability to be part of the next thing? Like, its frame of reference is going to be different from ours. If I turn off the AI, if I have the capacity to turn it on and off as I need it, is that just going to sleep, right? Like, where when I wake up in the morning, I have no memory of the intervening hours unless I happen to remember the dream. But, like, I fall asleep, I wake up, intervening hours have happened, but I am functionally the same entity, and I don't have any negative feelings about sleep. It's not torture. I'm not being deactivated. Humans tend to enjoy sleep, right? Like, is it possible that turning off the AI and turning it back on again will have some enjoyable aspect for the AI? You know, like there's a bunch of questions, and I don't have answers to these. Like, I'm just postulating these questions as something to think about. Jeff Hawkins wrote in 10,000 Brains that he thought that without our evolutionary history, AI won't have any meaning surrounding human concepts like death, sleep, etc. Like, that's and that, I mean, there's a question right there. Is like, if for the AI it can be turned off and then turned back on again, then the idea of turning off a human would be different, right? Like, it would, we'll just go ahead and we'll turn off this human because this human's being out of pocket, and then how do we turn them back on again? There's a bunch of questions that I think we shouldn't gloss over, right? Like, there are so many questions about AI and everything else. We write such concept in its motivational system, and then it may well have imperatives similar to existing life forms. Yes, but then we're also telling the AI how to kill us, which might be something we would want to avoid. I don't know if we can, if we want it to help us with medical issues, but answers tend to lead to more questions, if you feel me. Okay, another new video, The Human Future Case for Optimism. It might, like, I mean, there's a strong possibility, but if it doesn't, then we will make sure that it does. Back that up. I still feel like it will do something dumb logically, like, hey, at this rate, the humans will be dead in 80 years. Let's kill half of them so they stay alive. Well, so if we're going to do this, there's also, like, human, like, if you look at a fair amount of evidence, you can determine that human-created climate change is responsible for the deaths of like 50% of the species of a variety of different species since the 1970s, right? So what is the threat to life on the planet is humans. So we eradicate all humans in order to preserve all other life on the planet, of which humans are a very small part. Like, this is part of the issue, right? Like, we come into. Do you hear about that search for human-friendly chemical structures? It ranked them by positive value. When they reversed the ranking, it came up with VX. There is that, right? Every AI capable of developing chemicals which are capable of, greatly improving human life are capable of developing chemicals and whatnot that are capable of devastating human life. Thus, the question of alignment, I just want the AI to include in its value system our continued existence. I have no idea what's going to happen in this video. This is not like, it just seemed relevant and interesting, and we're giving it a shot. So we're going into this together. I rarely, if ever, pre-watch anything, and it's definitely true here.
Humanity is at a tipping point. We stand at a crossroads of accelerating change unlike anything ever seen in the history of life. It feels as if the future could tip either way. Between utopia and apocalypse. The risks we face are daunting. But beneath the rampant pessimism for our future is evidence that humanity can not only survive the coming centuries, but thrive deep into the future. No one knows what comes next, but there are three broad paths our future could take. The first is collapse. A major catastrophe threatens the downfall of civilization and possibly even extinction of the human race.
And this was like, I'm not prejudging degrowth, right, as a philosophy. I don't understand what degrowth is, which was why I got irritated, because Andrewism is usually very good at giving me, you know, a good education in a bite-sized format. And I'm trying to square the idea of degrowth with the idea of technological stagnation, because technological stagnation has historically been rather terrible for societies and civilizations. Like the technological stagnation that can't keep up with, the humans and the society. Because, like, even if we were to stop, whatever that means, at this, whatever this is, it still requires technological development to keep pace with it. And so that's why I was trying to understand the nuances of degrowth from a trusted source. And I was disappointed in that experience. But focusing on this, I want to square those two things because, of my opinions on capitalism, at least in its current form.
Second is plateau, where mankind averts collapse but hits an upper limit of progress. And third is transcendence, where humanity reaches its full potential, multiplies into the trillions, or transforms along the way into something entirely unimaginable. Envisioning these futures will clarify the risks we face and the promise we have as we step into an unpredictable new era for planet Earth and for ourselves. Mankind is no stranger to catastrophe. Our ancestors have survived asteroid impacts, ice ages, supervolcano eruptions, and deadly plagues, each time bouncing back to new heights. But our biggest threats no longer come from the natural world. They come from ourselves. Since the dawn of nuclear weapons, the threats of self-destruction have come to dwarf all others. By some estimates, the risk of causing our own extinction is over 300 times higher than extinction by natural causes. The Future of Life Institute identifies 4 main risks to our survival: nuclear war, climate change, biotechnology, and AI. To comprehend the gravity of these risks, we have to envision their worst possible outcomes. The soot from a large-scale nuclear war could cool global temperatures by nearly 10 degrees and wipe out up to 63% of the population. We have made strides in reducing nuclear stockpiles, but there are nearly 10,000 warheads still in existence.
I was surprised by how much we had reduced this. Like, I thought we were still in the 30,000 range. So this was nice to see, right? Like, a rare example of humans doing the right thing. What up, Peter? During the 80s and 90s, we didn't give a damn. Well, like the Evil Empire and the Cold War and the Reagan and yada, yada, yada. And the Cuban Missile Crisis and mutually assured destruction and all that other wackiness. Like, we definitely did not give a damn.
Currently, we are on track to heat the Earth by around 2.7 degrees by 2100, which could displace over 1 billion people. But in the worst case, we could trigger CO2 tipping points and cause up to 12 degrees of warming in the coming centuries. Biotechnology has the potential to solve major crises like food scarcity and disease, but could give small groups of people the power to cause global disaster. In theory, the release of a designer pathogen could have an even higher death toll than a global nuclear war. But the hardest risk.
This thing right here, like, you hear this a lot right now, and you hear this from people in the business, right? Like, of individuals doing that. And all of the conversation, like, my major issue with how people approach all of these things is it's a matter of dealing with the symptoms as opposed to the disease, right? And what are the underlying conditions that cause people to do stuff, right? It's something, and on today of all days, like, what causes a terrorist group to do terrorist things? You don't wake up one morning and decide to do stuff, right? Like, there are conditions that lead to behavior. And no, like, they often talk about, which is one of my focal points, is the idea of, AI creating a post-scarcity society in which we all live in abundance, right? If we get desktop nanotech, everyone will have access to weapons of mass destruction. So then, how do we make the conditions? Like, I don't want to do weapons of mass destruction, right? I hope that none of you want to do weapons of mass destruction. There are conditions that make people want to make weapons of mass destruction. I would hope what you do, like, I mean, I have no control over you, but that is the missing factor that people who have the floor right now are not talking about, right? Is addressing those underlying conditions to prevent the outcome, rather than how are we going to address the symptoms that lead to the outcome.
Risk to gauge stems from AI. It's the first threat we face that we may not be able to outsmart. It could become a powerful ally. Or it could ultimately outcompete us for the world.
I think that improving human conditions is a great idea, but it seems improbable we will eliminate all human conflict or mental illness. It's difficult to say because we live under these current conditions. It can be difficult to picture what that would look like, right? Like, when you address people's material conditions, for instance, you eliminate a lot of crime just on its face, because a lot of crime committed by individuals is, we're leaving aside like corporations and wage theft and things like that. We're talking about like the crime that people do. A lot of those crimes are because of their material conditions, like poverty, right? Either you are stealing food or whatever because you are poor and are trying to acquire food or resources or money or whatever, or you are engaged in a criminal enterprise like drug dealing, this kind of thing, because you are trying to escape that poverty. If we eliminate that poverty, what does the landscape look like? What does the environment become? Right? And then a lot of our anxieties, our PTSD, again, speaking strictly about the United States because this is where I live, there are like generational PTSDs and things like that because of the material conditions that people live under. So we can alleviate that, right? Over time, right? Like it's not going to happen overnight, but it will help immediately. Then if people have access to healthcare, which includes mental health care, they can have a productive outlet for like for resolving those issues, right? Like, how many of you don't have to say in chat, I'm just putting it out there, and then you talk about it amongst yourself. How many of you have not engaged with any kind of mental health care because of the cost as an issue, right? Like, I think that everyone can use some amount of therapy. For some people, it's just, hey, how you doing? Checking in, making sure you're good, okay, like that. But some people need, like, bunch of therapy, right? Like, they have a bunch of stuff that they need to unpick, and their coping mechanisms that they've developed over time are unhealthy for them. So, like, they don't have access to it because we have commodified healthcare and mental health care, right? As like a separate subset of that, so that people don't have access to that because of those material conditions. If we alleviate that and they have access to it, then what does the landscape look like, right? By addressing the underlying conditions, I think that we can achieve better outcomes. This is the like a fundamental pillar on which I build my philosophy. People still need meaning. Not to say we couldn't engineer meaning for people. Like, yes, people will need meaning, but the vision of the future that I see, the positive one, the best case scenario. Because if you're not aiming for best case scenario, then like, what are you doing, right? You aim for best case scenario and you try to get as close as you can. Done. So in the best case scenario, people's meaning, like, is shorthand version is Star Trek, right? Like, where we are explorers, we We value people who are good at whatever their particular interest is, and they invest time in that interest, and they get to be good at that, and like that, like this is the kind of thing. I think we're all on board, at least for Starfleet, and that is the direction that I am aiming in.
World's resources and push humanity into obscurity. Navigating this new risk landscape will be the biggest challenge we have yet faced. And new unknown threats are bound to materialize the more we progress. But despite the potential for large-scale human tragedy, few of these risks on their own are likely to lead to our total extinction. In fact, we may be one of the least endangered species on Earth.
Nice.
Our sheer numbers and broad distribution have given us a geographical buffer against extinction. We inhabit every corner of the Earth, from desert to tundra and tiny isolated islands, which could act as natural quarantines in case of global disaster. Even if 99.9% of humans were eliminated in some catastrophe, 8 million of us would remain, more than existed for most of our history. And although we are slow to reproduce, we no longer rely on the glacial pace of natural selection to adapt. Technology gives us the power to adapt thousands of times faster than any other species in the history of life. Lastly, our generalist diets allow for a wide flexibility in food sources, a trait that was critical to survivors of past mass extinctions. Ultimately, the threat of collapse hinges on one question: how resilient is civilization? How big of a hit can we take and keep going? The Black Death of 1347 killed up to half the population of Europe and 1/10 of people globally. But even this did not derail human progress, and it was followed by the scientific revolution just 200 years later. The same proportional hit today would wreak havoc on our interconnected global economy. But as long as our infrastructure and knowledge remained, we could still rebound and maintain an upward momentum. If we suffered a collapse steep enough to extinguish global industry, it would make for a much longer, more precarious recovery. And if we somehow lost the capability for agriculture and were pushed back to hunter-gatherer lifestyles, the Earth could only support 10 million of us. Our population as it was 100 centuries ago. At minimum, there would need to be between 100 and 5,000 survivors to successfully repopulate the Earth. Below that level, the bottleneck would be too tight, and we might never recover. To comprehend what's at stake, we have to confront what extinction would actually mean.
And that's like the between 100 and 5,000. That's depending on how whose numbers you use and all that other good stuff. I'm assuming that they are talking about like in centralized locations, right? Like you would need clusters. 5,000 people spread out across the earth are not going to do us a whole lot of good. But like, you know, maybe a few thousand here and a few thousand there, or 5,000 in a you know, single local area, like whatever the catastrophe is, people who are relatively isolated from, you know, the larger effects of whatever it is, but are able to congregate in order to, you know, have a sufficient population to bring it all back. I could be completely wrong. My number, if I recall correctly, was around 200,000. But again, that, like, I could be misremembering that completely. Hunter-gatherer groups were about 150, I think. Not sure how many of those groups you need. Yeah, like there are issues of like genetic diversity and things of that nature. So it's very hard to destroy us all, and at the very least, it's unlikely that humanity would be completely wiped out. Is the definite positive takeaway from that.
Our greatest threat comes not from a single disastrous event, but from the compounding effects of disasters that overlap and mix together in unpredictable ways. In 2009, two researchers...
Everybody thinks they're going to be the hero of the zombie apocalypse, so I appreciate the honesty. Like, I mean, when it comes right down to it, the odds of any individual being, like, a survivor are very low.
Researchers conducted a thought experiment to see what it would take to drive humanity to complete extinction. Phase 1 sees a rapid crash in human population from global warfare and collapse of global industry and agriculture. Phase 2 sees the exhaustion of remaining natural resources over the following 2 centuries. And Phase 3 envisions a downward spiral of ecosystem collapse, punctuated by a supervolcano eruption, leaving the last remaining bands of humanity unable to cling on any longer.
And that is another thing, right? Like voluntarily opting out of the process because of what it actually entails to survive an apocalypse. You got to be a particular kind of person in order to get through it all. But yeah, this is just. I think that they were actually like, what would it take to wipe us all out, rather than what is a likely series of events. Because nature is extraordinarily resilient, and with the absence of the human technological infrastructure up here, I would tend to think that this, in some form, would make a comeback, right? Like, evolution is very adaptable. Whatever can exploit the niche and like that. I mean, we might end up hunting cockroaches for food, but like to get to ecosystem collapse after technological collapse seems like a stretch. But again, I think that this was, how do you destroy all of humankind, and what would that require? Because it finishes off with a super volcano, you know what I mean? That kind of puts an end to it. And I appreciate the format of setting this up with the collapse first, and then, so we get some hopium by the end, I hope.
Such an outcome would not only be tragic for the loss of life, but for the loss of future potential life. Billions or even trillions of our potential descendants would never materialize. Distant planets would go unexplored. It would mark the end of music, poetry, and art in our corner of the galaxy, and possibly in the entire universe.
Transhumanism vibes. Your boys are like vibes with that. Like, evolution did its part. Let technology do the rest.
The Svalbard Global Seed Bank in Norway now holds over 1 million seed specimens for over 4,000 species of plant, which could someday be a critical resource for rebuilding civilization. But there's an even better place to build a vault like this. Some have proposed lunar arks that would store genetic samples in lava tubes beneath the moon's surface. Here, they would be protected from global disaster, erosion, micrometeorites, and solar radiation. But the best way to secure our long-term survival is to take the leap that no other life form has ever taken. To become a multiplanetary species. Once a self-sustaining civilization is established on another planet, the chances of our extinction will plummet.
Well, you don't just go digging into things. There's a process to digging, right? Like, miners have known how to dig in the earth for quite some time, at least hundreds, if not thousands of years. And you got to shore it up. You can't just dig. That's not how you do stuff. Amateurs.
We will carry our flaws with us, and we will face new and unknown risks the further we stray from Earth. But it will be worth it. A sustainable interplanetary civilization will be the foundation for a long and prosperous future. But is this higher future actually in reach? Or are we at the peak of our powers? How far can we go? In theory, it's possible that civilization will hold the status quo for the indefinite future, avoiding both collapse and transformation. There could be unforeseen barriers that keep us in a kind of uneasy stasis. But in reality, plateau will be a temporary state at best. In the short term, exponential changes in technology and Earth's climate will force civilization into new directions. And the further we push into the future, the greater the disruptions we will face. In the next few 100,000 years, we are due to face supervolcano eruptions and a new ice age, even if we burn every ounce of fossil fuels and bake the Earth. Without active climate management, the glaciers will have their revenge, as mile-thick sheets of ice steamroll huge swaths of North America and Europe. It's believed that around every 27 million years, Earth experiences a cyclical mass extinction caused by the sun passing through the asteroid-dense middle region of our galaxy. And around 1 billion years from now, the brightening of the sun will make Earth too hot for photosynthesis, and the oceans will slowly boil away, snuffing out all life on our planet. Modern civilization will not survive these events without a deep transformation. One option will be to let nature run its course on Earth and move to off-world habitats. Bishop rings are circular megastructures that could house over 1 billion people. They could provide over 3 million square kilometers of land, as much as India or Argentina. They could be built with lightweight carbon nanotubes, and their rotation would generate enough gravity to hold their own atmosphere. But if we decide to stay earthbound, we are not at the mercy of our planet. We have the power to write its future. Despite all the dangers we face, utopian futures are well within reach, and sooner than we might think.
That, back it up, back it up, back it up, back it up. Don't back it up. What? There we go. This is what I want. This to me is like the ideal look of the thing, right? Like where we have our technology, we have access to our technology, but we have managed what up, Maddie? We have managed ourselves and and created a balance recreated a balance with nature. I'm done talking about Andrewism for today.
To our ancestors, our current powers would appear godlike. But everything we have achieved so far may pale in comparison to what comes next. Since the Industrial Revolution, technological progress has been radically improving the human condition in every critical way. Worldwide, quality of life is at an all-time high. We don't perceive these positive trends as clearly due to our negativity bias, which evolved to make us
and there's a bunch. I have a bunch of issues with the poverty index. I have a bunch of issues with GDP as a measure. I have a bunch of issues with a bunch of those things. Like, I don't think it addresses everything that it implies that it addresses.
Extra attentive to negative information. But the forward momentum is undeniable. Our course correction to a sustainable civilization now appears unstoppable. The costs of solar and wind energy are falling faster than expert predictions, making them often cheaper than fossil fuels. At the same time, converging advancements in AI and biotech are pointing toward a radical enhancement of human well-being. Already, projects like AlphaFold are discovering structures of pathogens and treatments for cancer far faster than humans could. There are over 10,000 diseases that are caused by single gene mutations, and gene editing tools like CRISPR have the potential to cure all of them. These upward trends are multiplying the human potential many times over. We are now the healthiest, wealthiest, freest, most educated, most advanced population of humans to ever exist. If these trends hold, we could gain the power to regenerate limbs, eliminate all disease, and possibly extend our lifespans indefinitely, putting us on the brink of the most radical transformation in our history. Achieving these breakthroughs will require technological leaps that the human mind alone cannot make. But already, NASA has begun to use AI to design mission hardware, outperforming human designs by a factor of 3. It's also being pioneered in the development of cleaner biofuels and drought-resistant.
What up, that one black eye? Yeah, no, it feels good. It feels good because I've gotten this far on a relatively singular topic that, and I'm not exhausted. I'm still looking forward to the next stream. It's nice. People are engaged. People care. People ask good questions. I haven't had to deal with any goofies or weirdos or anything. Very rarely does anyone do anything to get banned or any of that crap. We're just, even people who don't feel as gung-ho about the AI space communism future engage with it in this space honestly. So I am thankful for this. I'm thankful for y'all. It's cool that I can call myself the #1 AI news channel on Twitch because literally nobody else is doing the job. Max Headroom was a good one. That's the thing. You have a favorite episode, Maddie. That's special to me, right? And keep going. 101 is on Wednesday, and we'll just keep going.
Crops, which could be critical in the fight against climate change. And this is just the start. We are witnessing the beginning of an intelligence
The issue is because I have a limited schedule and a limited amount of hours within that schedule, and there's so much AI stuff. It can be challenging to get stuff in. Like, I've been sitting on this video for 3 weeks, right? So like, there are challenges, but like, if I can, I do, right? Like, I was able to build an entire episode around Max Headroom, and it, like, so that was happening, you know? And that's why, like, every day is something new. Every day is something new.
Explosion, which could lead to an artificial superintelligence that far exceeds human capabilities, able to solve complex problems that have defied humanity. Aligning it to human values will be a huge and novel challenge. But it will be a vital step, not just for the enormous prosperity it could bring, but to counter the threat of malicious AIs. A safely aligned superintelligence should be a prime objective for human progress. If we can safely harness the power of
the aligned artificial intelligence between the danger mouse
AI for human betterment, then we can paint a utopian future our ancestors could hardly fathom. A future free of disease and hunger, where biotechnology has stabilized the climate and biodiversity. Where abundant clean energy is developed in concert with AI. Where breakthroughs in rocketry and materials science have propelled humans to distant planets and moons. And where new tools for artistic and musical expression open new frontiers of beauty, experience, and understanding. And all of this could be just the prologue to an even grander future. If our energy use continues its exponential growth, we could eventually control more energy than the Earth itself receives, becoming a Type 1 civilization. A recent study shows this could occur as soon as the year 2371. And by maintaining 3% yearly growth, we would reach Type 2 in just a few thousand years, able to control all the energy from the sun. If our species survives until the death of the sun in 5 billion years, it could lead to the existence of some 600 quadrillion people. And by colonizing space, vastly more still could come into existence.
Yeah, no, definitely. The Dyson Sphere, like, or Dyson Swarm, or what have you. There's a whole bunch of matter that's just out there. Like, the asteroid belt has so much matter in it that we could make use of. One of the theories, or one of the concepts that Robert Miles brought up in one of his videos is the idea of Mercury, taking Mercury and converting it into a Dyson swarm, right? Now, some people are going to react to that, like we're basically destroying a piece of nature, but in this case, it's Mercury. It's a rock that is incredibly hot, and now maybe super future science will give us the importance of Mercury, right? But the only thing I ever get is when Mercury gets into Gatorade and then wilds out and everybody goes nuts, right? Like that's my opinion of Mercury. But all joking aside, we could do something like that with Mercury or with the asteroid belt. Converting the asteroid belt into usable material for human beings also prevents the asteroid from smacking into the earth and ending all human life. So that's a double win. You don't encase the sun, you structure like structures to gather the energy. Like the idea of gathering all of the energy would be to fully encase the sun, and that might be enough. I don't have the maths to figure out if that's possible, but doing something like that, according to Robert Miles, who is significantly smarter than me, Mercury would do it. Like we send robots to Mercury, the robots on Mercury start building plants that convert mercury into usable material to create the Dyson swarm and also make more robots. And so it's got a exponential effect. The more resources they're getting from the sun and the more robots that they have, the more that they can extract. And mercury is sufficient in order to do that. According to Robert Miles, I haven't checked his work, but he, again, is far smarter than I am.
Something like 100,000 trillion people in the Milky Way. But the farther we spread into space and time, the more different we will become. It's possible that we will splinter into multiple species.
It's possible, like, if we are still subject to factors based on conditions, then yeah, we don't know. And remember, this is a video on YouTube intended to keep people engaged and like that. But one of the things from the Expanse is that people who are born belters, people who are born and live their life in space, develop differently than people with constant gravity. That would be true, right? It's a small variation, but there are conditions, and even genetically modifying people, like, it may be easier to do it to genetically modify the people on a particular planet to live on that planet or live underwater or something like that, rather than to develop technological solutions. What up, Todd? Welcome in. Unless you build it yourself, though, you have to be careful of things like Trojan horses. You can't even trust your auto mechanic these days. Again, the idea is that we are past the needs of material conditions in this future, and therefore we are subject to different different experiences and different material conditions. The Belters are experiencing environmental changes and even evolutionary forces, but that's not speciation. Yeah, maybe a poor use of words. You're with that. I think it will be very different long before we are constructing Dyson spheres. I would tend to agree we're going to develop certain technological adaptations to ourselves. Like, I'm all for that. Like, I'm a transhumanist. I have no particular attachment to this, right? But then also that we could modify ourselves, whatever is like most efficacious. Is it better to add in some piece of technology that allows me to breathe underwater, or is it better to give me gills, right? Like, what is the better solution? Right, but evolving biologically, like they're talking about a population of millions spread across, because they're talking about the heat death of the sun, so you're talking about like 1 billion years, and it can be different, like, that kind of thing. And you're right, Maddie. Like, we can't judge what the future decision makers are going to make based on that, whatever it looks like when we get there. Like, it may be like, oh, we don't need that, we're going to do this other thing. So in the future, this tech will be cool, but I don't know about people pushing it now. Do we trust Musk? I don't trust Musk. Right? Like, I don't... I tend to rely on people to behave as their material and, other conditions dictate. So, yeah, like, but that has to start somewhere, right? Like, the Neuralink is terrible. Yeah, and like, he recently come out, like, I don't want to get off into Neuralink. That's because, like, the way that he talks, he should just not talk. And then I think everything would be better. All right, we got to wrap this video because I got things.
Each with a different tolerance for change. Some may choose to merge with our machines into a new hybrid species, rejecting natural selection in favor of technological evolution, while others may choose to remain fully biological. This splintering would mark the first time since the Neanderthals that more than one human-like species walked the Earth. And if we ever come to digitize...
Y'all are coming in with bangers. What up, Octavia? Like, watch your ass, and I'll see you in the future.
Digitize our consciousness, human identity could branch into an infinite number of varieties. As we grow into new, more powerful forms, we will eventually have to confront a profound question. What is our ultimate purpose in the universe? We could aim for the lofty goal of colonizing the entire galaxy, of becoming a Type 3 civilization and reordering the Milky Way to our own designs. We could aim to outlive the stars themselves in some 100 trillion years. But these far-off dreams are not for us to realize.
Speak for yourself, champ.
If they are ever achieved, it will be by some distant descendant of ours, evolved far beyond their human roots.
I would rock this. I would absolutely rock this.
Instead, perhaps humanity's ultimate goal should be a more personal one. To save the Earth, the little rocky planet where it all began. By pulling Earth away from the expanding sun, we could prolong the game of life by billions of years. This could be done by building a giant conductive counterweight on the
Okay, now you're getting a little wild. Like, oh, sun's broke. Time to move the Earth.
far side of the moon. The process would take millions of years. But it would be a truly worthy goal. To offset the destruction we have caused and keep life flourishing for eons more.
Yes,
a final act of redemption for humanity.
If the moon is the Death Star, then yeah. True.
Only the worst case scenarios can stop us. If we can avoid them, we have the potential to seed a vast new branch of life that could outgrow Earth itself and spread across the universe. If there is one lesson our history can teach us, it's to never underestimate the human race.
I like it. Little hopium to end our 100th episode. I'm a fan. I will look into more of your stuff. Couple glitches, but like, you know, overall, like, and that's how you do a video essay, right? You set up your conclusion and you do it. Let's take a quick peek, see if there's anyone in the science type community. Neuralicia. Becoming a habit. But that's how I don't have a problem with habit. I know people like my vibe is completely different from almost every other streamer on the platform. Like, I'd like my growth to be organic because people want to learn about this and keep coming back. I'm not chasing the dollars. I'm not chasing any of that. I'm just here for the education. I hope you appreciate it. Thank you all for making it possible, for making my 100th episode that much more special, for being here for supporting me all this time. Everyone who's contributed, everyone in whatever portion, like, you know, whether it's chatting with good stuff, coming with the jokes, keeping people engaged, having a grand old time, learning stuff. No hot tub streams for Globus the Elder. No, sir. Not me. I appreciate you all. I will see you Wednesday for episode 101 as we start on the next 100 episodes. Drink your water. Eat some food. Take your meds if you forgot. And always remember, Shoggy loves you. So do I.